What's it mean for these two leagues as there's potential for other players to return to the tour?
Yeah, no doubt. This is obviously an unprecedented situation for the PGA Tour. They created a whole program that was announced yesterday that Brooks Koepka is kind of spearheading, and kind of the qualifications for being in that category is you have to be a major champion or a players champion, which is viewed by many as the fifth major in the last 4 years. So you have Brooks, who's already jumped. You have Bryson DeChambeau, John Rahm, and Cam Smith, who are all eligible to make that move. I think what new CEO Brian Rolapp put together is a really fair and understandable set of ramifications, right? Because he has to make a $5 million charitable donation. Nobody gets harmed. In fact, that helps a lot of people. He's not going to be able to make money off the new player incentive program, so he's missing out on that. And most importantly, Brooks's joining of the PGA Tour is not going to hurt anyone who's earned their spot. He's not going to be replacing somebody in a field because of his status. He's only going to be added. So, for example, if it's a 125 player field, it'll be 126 if Brooks decides to play. He wouldn't be knocking out the last person in, which I think is by far the fairest move from everyone involved.
I want to take a quick step back for a second because just full transparency, a big portion of our audience are basketball fans or football fans, not necessarily the biggest golf fans out there. So maybe if you could just add some context to the magnitude of this move. What does it mean, maybe in layman's terms, that Brooks Koepka is returning to the PGA Tour?
Totally. Well, think of it in this way. The NFL dominates for decades, and then another group decides to create a competitor alongside the NFL and steals some of the superstars, someone along the lines of Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson jumping and leaving the NFL to join this new league. Other guys follow suit, but now those big stars want to come back, and the future of that second league starts to creep in some doubt, and the power and the momentum of the NFL is gaining quickly and back to where it was. Everyone wants everyone playing in the same league. And I think that's why the majority of golf fans and the players should be very excited about this, because it's a big step towards getting all of the best in the same spot. And I think aside from the majors, you didn't really get that the last 5 years.
So what's the reception going to be like from the other golfers that chose not to take the LIV money, remain with the PGA, and now everybody's coming back together?
Yeah, totally. I think Brooks has the most work to be done with his fellow golfers rather than the fans. I think the fans shared the sentiment I just said in terms of as long as everyone's playing under the same tournaments, I think that's what the fans care about the most. Some of the players might be a little aggravated because obviously he left to take a massive life-changing type of money at LIV, but now he's going to come back. He has to pay those penalties that we mentioned earlier. I think, again, the fact that he's not going to be taking any spots in some of these tournaments, I think helps the PGA Tour players who were loyal, in the sense that he's not coming back and stealing anybody's spotlight. But I'm sure there's some guys who turn down LIV offers that might be a little bit salty. But again, the PGA is so interesting because a lot of these guys are friends off the course, right? It's not like yes, technically they are going against each other, and their success depends on how the other players do. But it's not a team sport where you're literally facing off one-on-one. You're playing your own ball, and the scoreboard is the scoreboard. So I think there's a reason why a lot of these guys played together in these friendly events. You see two guys on your screen, Brooks and Rory, both have houses here in South Florida. A lot of the guys live here. A lot of the guys live in Arizona, California. So I think the camaraderie amongst the top guys has always been high. But obviously, again, unprecedented. So some guys might be salty, which is totally understandable.
I'm kind of here for that. I'm here for a little bit of friction, a little bit of rivalry. I think it's good for the sport. And you very smartly just painted why this is so good for everyone involved, specifically the PGA Tour. Obviously, Brooks Koepka has jumped ship. He may not be the last one. So what does this mean for LIV? Does LIV survive this?
I think that's the big question in the last 24 hours, right? Because the new plan that the PGA Tour set up allows Bryson, who you see right now, John Rahm, along with Cam Smith, to make a similar move. However, there was an explicit date that was named. I think it was February 2nd, where they have to decide. LIV season, I think, starts a few days after that. And then the PGA Tour obviously starts this week, and the big signature events start to come in a few weeks as well. So these next 2-3 weeks are going to be massive for the future of LIV, because if Bryson DeChambeau, who is not only becoming one of the biggest household names in golf, but in all of YouTube and sports entertainment right now, follows back, I don't see how LIV can move forward in the United States in terms of popularity. I know they have a lot of success internationally. A lot of their events are done internationally. But if Bryson, an American who brought out that American flag on the first tee of the Ryder Cup, comes back along with Brooks, I don't know. But again, selfishly, I have my fan hat on right now. I'm not broadcasting. You want the best of the best together. And I think even from both perspectives, fan and broadcaster, it would be best to have everyone together, not just those 4 times a year at the majors.
All right, so you're a man of many hats. Let's get to one of your other hats. College basketball is one that you wear well and wear proudly. Let's talk a little bit about the landscape right now in this season, particularly Vandy. Vandy's 16-0 right now. Why are they not getting enough respect?
I think, honestly, because it's Vandy. It's not a household name, right? You have UConn and Duke. Arizona even is at the top of the rankings week in and week out, and they're going to make the headlines, right? But I think Vanderbilt, people who've been watching college basketball throughout the entire season, know how rare this is. And Vanderbilt has been at rock bottom in both of the major sports. They had a great year in football with Diego Pavia, and now the Commodores are going to be in the NCAA tournament and will have, obviously, they're undefeated right now, a chance to really make a deep run in the big dance. So again, they're in the SEC, which is the toughest conference in the league, some would argue. And we're just getting going with conference play, but they've set themselves up for a great position when the bracket comes out in 2 months.
Vanderbilt women's also undefeated. Candace Story-Lee, AD at Vandy, 80 of the year, and I don't even think it's close. But there's another team on the men's side that also maybe isn't getting the respect that they deserve, and that's Nebraska. Also unbeaten, sitting at 8th in the AP poll. So if we want to compare Nebraska and Vanderbilt, two of these two teams that maybe aren't getting their due, if you had to hitch your wagon to one of these teams, who do you trust more to make a longer run? Is it Nebraska or Vanderbilt?
Man, this is tough. And yeah, Nebraska deserves their flowers too, right? Known as a football school over the last few decades, but what Fred Hoiberg has done has been really remarkable. And I think both of these teams will be flashy picks to make deep runs just because it's new blood, right? And that's kind of been the theme in the playoffs, both college and NFL so far. You have teams that aren't usually in the mix make deep runs. So I think just because of the competition surrounding them, I think Vanderbilt right now, if both teams stay hot, will have survived a bigger gauntlet by the time we get to Selection Sunday. I think the SEC is stronger top to bottom than the Big Ten. So it's nothing against Nebraska. I just think Vanderbilt will be going through some bigger tests to appropriately suit them for a longer NCAA tournament run. But again, I'm usually wrong when it comes to these things, so I hope the Husker fans don't come after me.
I mean, look, we're all if any of us could get college basketball right, we'd own small islands during the NCAA tournament. I'm just saying. There's a lot of unbeatens this year, Jake, and I'm going to ask you a philosophical question because I think a lot of people are just now paying attention to college basketball. They've been watching college football, right? Now that we look at, we got 5 unbeatens. Michigan went down this weekend. They were unbeaten. What does it say about the current landscape of college basketball that so many teams are having dominant regular seasons so far?
I think it's honestly going to set us up for even more chaos because with undefeated teams, a handful of them that we just mentioned, there's going to be people who are filling out their brackets thinking, I know this team is guaranteed to make the Sweet 16. I know that Arizona or UConn are a write-in for the Final Four. We've all watched this tournament year in and year out. Any of the teams we discussed could easily be bounced in the first weekend. And I think that's what makes it so glorious. I think this year, while there are a few teams that have established their dominance in the regular season so far, the chaotic kind of structure of the NCAA tournament sets us up for even sillier outcomes. And I'm all for that. I know last year, a lot of people were angry that the majority of the tournament was chalk. We didn't get any Cinderellas, but we ended up with a great second weekend and Final Four. So I think no matter what, this tournament always delivers. And I think this regular season is proving that there are going to be people who are even more certain that some of the teams we just mentioned are going to be going to Indy for the Final Four. But who knows? It's 40 minutes. Anything could happen.
And to that point, the one thing that we can predict about the NCAA tournament is that it's unpredictable. It's silly. It's weird. Crazy things happen. Last year, like you mentioned, not necessarily the case. All 4 1 seeds were represented in the Final Four. If that trend breaks this year, who is the mid-major that you would trust the most to find themselves in the Final Four?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I glance off at the screen, looking at the rankings as well. There's a team that I called in November, and that's George Mason, led by Tony Skinn, who's an alum of the school. The Patriots out of the Atlantic 10. I guess kind of a gray area for mid-major, right? Because sometimes you get at-large teams, but I really like what the Patriots have done. A ton of transfers. In fact, one of their best players didn't even play the first few weeks of the season, Braden O'Connor. So I think George Mason out of the Atlantic 10 has an at-large potential. And I think similar to what we saw literally 20 years ago, 2006, when they made the Final Four. In fact, they just retired Jim Larinaga's name in the rafters in Virginia at their school. I think we could see a little bit of deja vu. In fact, Tony Skinn, the current head coach, was a player on that Final Four team.
All right, so let's pin you in, because we've talked a lot about the great freshmen this year because it's so dynamic to watch. I'm going to make you the GM of whatever NBA team you choose that wins the lottery. You're picking first. Who would you pick first out of all of these great players that we're talking about right now in college basketball?
Man, it's really a crapshoot. You can't go wrong between H.A. DeBonsa, Cam Boozer. I think it's very top heavy this season in the draft. These freshmen, in a era where it seems like the transfer portal is taking over and you're not seeing a lot of impactful freshmen in the sport anymore. These guys obviously are still proving that there is a small portion of freshmen who still are going to be one and dones. They're going to dominate in college. And this time next year, we could easily talk about both of these guys getting ready for their first NBA All-Star game. So it's just, again, you don't see it as much anymore, but they're still out there, and these freshmen are elite.
All right, before we get you out of here, I have to ask about your alma mater at Syracuse. And everyone's been very excited about Melo's son, Cayenne Anthony, coming back and playing for the Orange. Are they going dancing this year?
I really hope so. They haven't gone dancing since the COVID tournament in 2021. They haven't even really been in the conversation to do so. They have some nice wins this season. They beat Tennessee in the ACC SEC Challenge. So I hope so. I mean, the ACC isn't the strongest this year, so they have a chance to put together some nice wins. They have a tough bye game loss at home to Hofstra out of the CAA. Still a great conference, but that probably won't look too great on the resume. But it would be great. I would love to see Syracuse back in the dance. It's a school that really doesn't accept anything less. So the fact that they're on this tournament drought, I think the fans really need to see it.
All right, so you love Syracuse. You love Big J journalism. Give us your Mount Rushmore of Syracuse broadcasters. Come on.
Wow, you're really putting me in a corner here because all of these alums have given back to us, and Mount Rushmore is only 4. So it's not an easy task. I'm going to make more people upset than happy by this proclamation. So no offense.
That's the hope. That's the hope.
Yeah. But there are way too many to choose from. But just the 4 that come to my mind, Bob Costas is obviously a legend. He's slowly going away from broadcasting, but what he's done over the last few decades is historical. I think the versatility of Mike Tirico we're going to see it firsthand these next few weeks. NBC has the Olympics and the Super Bowl. So he could literally be going from bobsledding to the NFL's biggest game in the matter of 24 hours. So there's not many people who could confidently do that, literally. I love Iron Eagle. I think his personality really shines, and he makes any analyst that he works with elite immediately. Look what he did with JJ Watt this year, right? This is JJ's first year, full season in the booth, and now people are talking about them as if they're one of the best in the biz, and it's hard to disagree with that. And then I'll go Sean McDonough. Sean, another guy who preaches versatility, does the Red Sox. He just did the college football playoff. He's elite. And those are 4, but there are many, many more that we could sit here all day and talk about.
Well, you guys,
that's a good 4, though.
Your thoughts on that? Yeah, it's good 4. Follow him on social media at Jake Marsh 18. Obviously, check him out all over the PGA Tour and all over college basketball, man. We really appreciate your expertise and all your thoughts on this, man. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your week.